Y10K fractured. Chapter 6. What progress have you made on the tax evasion scheme? Taurus asked. Beyond the office windows, the bright sky was beginning to cloud over. Gabrielle sat in as before, silent, observant. It's become a mess, Majesty, Santron replied candidly, not even glancing at the prince. 2 weeks in, and the scope reaches far beyond County Greystone. You have my attention? Continue, Taurus said, noting the flicker of embarrassment crossing Sandron's face. Jabriel leaned back slightly, head tilted in quiet interest. His engagement in court matters was notable, especially for one who so often preferred the stables or the company of common citizens beyond the palace gates. Mendarian marble, over 1,000 tons, from County Greystone alone has gone missing, Santron said. Tigris has confirmed similar losses elsewhere. Lumber from multiple counties in Mornicus, metal ores from Lormara, and foodstuffs enough to feed the valley for months. Taurus blinked, stunned. From the faint sound beside him, Jabriel was as well. You're speaking of tons, Taurus said. Repeatedly? Yes, Majesty. Over the course of years. It amounts to a massive reallocation of wealth. Santron hesitated, then gave a small, helpless shrug. To what end? I cannot say. Marble, timber, metal, Taurus said slowly. That points to construction. Large-scale construction. And the food. Support for a workforce, a significant one, he looked up. Something is being built in the South Valley. A project spanning most of your father's reign, Santron added. Taurus frowned. From the beginning? Nearly so. It appears to have been ongoing throughout. Jabriel spoke then, calm and measured. The same conditions hindering our investigation have likely halted their work as well, he said. Winter has bought us time. There was a pause. Time we should use wisely. We are proceeding apace, my lord, the project foreman said. Java allowed himself a faint smile. Then permit me the pleasure of welcoming you to the upper concourse of Sintron Prime, Sintran Station. It was a different world from what had been uncovered earlier. Gone were the oozing, slime-coated walls. In their place, clean lines, bright light, and order. Marble floors and wall panels gleamed. Wood-fronted shops were polished to a high sheen. Chrome, steel, and mirrored glass caught the light everywhere. Nearby, a bank of escalators moved in silence, four ascending, four descending, linking the upper concourse to the lower platforms where the trains waited. Java had come up from there moments before. The ride itself had been smooth until the final approach. The line here was still unstable. Even so, the sleek four-car train had eased into the station with a soft, sighing halt. The doors opened without a sound. He had stepped out and ascended. How far are we from the palace? Java asked. Approximately 140 miles south and 79 east, the foreman replied briskly. Scouting has confirmed a second station beneath Castle Cintron. We are stabilizing the line and conducting surveys for restoration. And your estimation for completion? 4 months. Java glanced at him. You sound certain. We've refined the process, my lord. At this point, restoring a line has become routine. Java considered that. Once beneath Castle Sintram, how far to the palace? 25 miles. If we forego restoring concourses and platforms as we have here and focus solely on track and essential systems, you could be ready for the next phase within 2 additional months. Java said nothing for a moment. Battle stallions. That was the constraint. The third train was under construction. The fourth was being prepared. Even with all 10 projected trains completed, they did not yet have a force enough to fill them. If we restore fully? He asked at last. 4 months, the foreman repeated. 8 months total, Java murmured. Aprision's militia in Alterian was already substantial, thanks to Ericor. Lormara, despite Firestar's incompetence, followed close behind with disciplined forces. Mornicus and Ullery, however, lagged far behind. 8 months might not be enough to bring them to readiness. Java's gaze moved slowly across the concourse. Order, precision, permanence. We continue as we have been, he said finally. All sections restored, fully operational. The foreman hesitated, puzzled, but inclined his head. As you command, my lord. The timetable was tightening. Events would begin to move soon. Once the first piece shifted, the rest would follow in quick succession. Waiting irritated him. At last, the one he had been expecting arrived. Marillion, Count Rambrook of Lormara. What progress? Ericor asked, dispensing with pleasantries. Everything is proceeding as planned, Marillion replied, irritation plain in his tone. All will be ready when Java gives the word. Good, Ericor said. Move faster. Marillion blinked. Faster? Move faster, Ericor repeated, calm, unhurried. You don't need to think, Ericor said softly. You need to do as you're told, and do it faster. We do not have time for your doubts. There was a pause. Of course. Faster, Marillion said, the edge gone from his voice. Certainly. Good. Get back to work. Ericor dismissed him with a glance. He took to the air moments later. He needed to return before his absence was noted. If the workers began to notice patterns, began to think, it would complicate matters. The cold did not help. It never did. The sun warmed her closed eyelids as a light breeze whispered past. Eileen shifted just enough to set the hammock swaying. Mid-June had brought a fragile peace. The arguments between Tim and TJ had dwindled to a single flare-up. At her insistence, they had reached an uneasy agreement about the football tryouts. For all his intelligence, Tim could still miss the obvious when it came to family. Then again, so could she. The sliding door opened above. A moment later, 2 sets of feet thundered across the deck and down the stairs. Even the chaos Tom and Trent created had a comforting rhythm. Eileen let herself drift, relaxed, eyes closed. It lasted 10 minutes. Then she realized it had gone quiet. Too quiet. Eileen opened her eyes and sat up. The yard was empty. Thomas? Trent? She called, expecting them to be exploring the tree line. No answer. Thomas and Trent Jordan, come out here now. Still nothing. She swung her legs down from the hammock. Timothy, can you come out here, please? A thump sounded beneath the deck. Tim appeared, rubbing his head. What is it? Where are the gremlins? Do you see them? He scanned the yard, then toward the woods. They probably went down to the stream. That campsite we found? Bet they're poking around again. Eileen remembered it well. They had gone down with Frank Washburn, found the remains of a campsite, cold, abandoned, but not empty. A rifle scope, no rifle, a leather roll of knives, a lighter, waterproof matches, thick wool socks, all scattered like someone had left in a hurry, or in the dark. We need to fence that off, Eileen said, already moving. Until they're old enough. I'll add it to the list, Tim muttered, following. They pushed through the trees towards the stream. Relief came first. Voices, laughter, then hesitation. Are they with someone? Tim asked quietly. Eileen listened. There maybe a third voice? Not TJ. He was still asleep. Unless he slipped out and brought them down here. Why would he? They reached the bank. The gremlins stood at the old campsite, guilt written all over them, dirt-streaked hands, digging. What have we told you about the stream? Eileen snapped, especially without us. We were helping the man, Thomas turned, pointing behind them. Nothing. Hey, where did he go? Eileen's stomach dropped. You were here with a stranger? We've got his stuff at the house, Trent said quickly. He he was camped here. He left it. Tim was already scanning the stream. Nothing. No canoe, no movement. Where did he go? Eileen pressed. Where's his boat? Gremlins, Tim said sharply. Back to the house. Now. They obeyed, reluctantly, fear creeping in. They had just reached the edge of the woods when two sharp cracks split the air. Eileen froze. That came from the house, Tim said. Move, now. You've got your phone? He scooped Trent up and ran. Eileen fumbled for her phone, dragging Thomas with her as she dialed 911, hoping for signal.